Yeah, on the menu is some barbecue beef pizza. And this all came about because I ended up buying 2 London broils, or top rounds. I needed only one, but they were a good price, and I thought, you know, what can I use the other one for? Hadn't made pizza in a while, so that's what we're gonna be doing. Now, we're actually making the pizza tomorrow, but we're gonna get the dough going today. I like to refrigerate the dough overnight to help it ferment a little bit. You don't have to do that. You could make the pizza after the second rise, no problem. So it's not a 2-day affair. I just like to do that. So let's get started on our dough. I have my stand mixer out here, and to the bowl, I'm gonna add 1 cup of warm water. Next up, a teaspoon of sugar. Just wanna stir that around a little bit in there. Next up, 2 1/4 teaspoons of instant yeast. This is not active yeast. It doesn't need to sort of foam and everything, so we could go right into making this after we get the yeast in here. But I do like to give it just a little mix in there. Next up, 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Now we're gonna get our stand mixer going, and I'm gonna add the flour a little bit at a time. We're gonna use a total of about 3 cups of flour. I'm using bread flour. You could use all-purpose flour. And the reason I say about, it's because you almost always have to adjust the flour, the water. Conditions can change that. Today's a very moist day. It's raining outside, so we may have to add a little flour, maybe a little water. We'll see. My speed is 2 on the mixer. Okay, all of our 3 cups of flour is in there now. What I want to do now is just scrape down the sides a little bit. And I think we're probably going to have to add a little more water, but we'll see. Add a little more, maybe a tablespoon. Now you can see it's starting to sort of grab on here, onto that dough hook. Another scrape down here. Making pizza dough is a lot about the look of it and the feel of it. Precise measurements don't always work just because of, like I mentioned, conditions can change the consistency of the dough. Now that it's come together, I'm just gonna let this knead for about 2 minutes. I want to get a little flour on my counter here. Gonna get our dough out. And I just want to work my dough a little bit here and form it into a ball shape. Set this aside. Gonna spray a little olive oil in my bowl. Get our dough ball in there, roll it around. Now at this point, what you really might want to do is take your phone out and take a picture of this so you see the size of the dough ball, because we want this to about double in size. And that can take anywhere from 1 hour to 2 hours depending on conditions. But we're gonna cover this with some plastic wrap now so we can let it start rising. So I'll see you back here in 1 hour or 2 when this has risen, and then we can divide it and get it ready for the second rise. So here we are after 2 hours of rising at room temperature, and well, yeah, we got a good rise, as you can see. Go in here and just sort of push it, you can feel it's got a nice spring to it. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this out of here and we're gonna divide it up. So we need to weigh it first. I wanna see what my individual portions are gonna be. I want 3 portions out of this to make 3 pizzas. And after we do that, we're going to give it a second rise. Now, when you do this next part, you're knocking a lot of this gas out of it, and the second rise allows that to sort of build back up in there in the individual portions. So let's weigh this and see how much we got. So I have my scale here. We can get our dough ball on our piece of parchment paper here. And we have 738 grams. So 240, 250 gram individual portions for 3 pizzas. That's what we're gonna go for. I'm just gonna put a little flour on my cutting board here. I'm gonna eyeball this first one here. That's showing 204, 226, 249. That's good for the first one. 232. A tiny bit more there. 238, and our last one's gonna be 260. And I'll take a little bit off of that one for the one we just did. So now I have my 3 individual pieces of dough here. Get a little flour on my hands and on them. And I just wanna form these into balls. Just gonna work them a little bit here. We're just making mini versions of what we had in that big bowl. Now I'm gonna get these in my proofing box. A little bit of flour in here. A little bit of flour on top of these. Now I'm gonna put the lid on, and these are gonna rest here for 2 hours. We'll take a look, and then they're gonna go in the refrigerator. So I'll see you back here in a couple hours. So our dough balls have been proofing for another 2 hours now. Let's see how they're doing. Yeah, they're doing good. Look at that. That's what the second rise does. It sort of brings back that gassy interior, lets them ferment a little bit. But now what I wanna do is I wanna slow this down. I'm gonna put the lid back on, and this is going in the refrigerator overnight. That will allow some more flavor to develop in the dough, especially with that bread flour. That's what I've found. Now again, right now you could take one of these, make a pizza with it. But I have the time, so I'm gonna give it that extra day and let it develop some more flavor. So this is going in the refrigerator, and tomorrow we'll be using this to make our barbecue beef pizza. All right, our pizza dough has been proofing overnight in the refrigerator. I took one of the dough balls here. It's been sitting in this bowl covered with a damp cloth for 2.5 hours, just to sort of come up to room temp so it's not cold. You can see it's looking good. So I'm gonna cover this back up because we have to get our barbecue beef ready. And this is also the time that you should be preheating your oven to at least 450 degrees. If your oven goes to 500, go ahead. Mine does go above 450, but I like to do it at 450, sometimes 475. The reason I want a little bit lower today is I want this barbecue beef to have a little chance to cook. We're not pre-cooking it. We're gonna put it on there after we cut it up. So if it's too hot, the dough will cook too fast, the meat won't cook, kind of a balance here. And honestly, you really should be using something like a pizza stone or a pizza steel. This works great. You just preheat it for at least a half an hour in the oven. So I'm gonna put this in there, turn it to 450, and we'll be preheating while we get our beef ready. So I think I mentioned at the beginning of the video that I had some extra top round, also sold as London broil. And what I did with that, I took a piece of it and I marinated it now for 2 days in a mixture of barbecue sauce and Worcestershire sauce. Had about a 1/4 cup of barbecue sauce and a couple tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce, and here it is. Now, this is not generally a tender cut. Usually you cook this to say medium rare, slice it thin. It can be tough. There's not a lot of fat inside this. We're gonna be trimming this fat off the outside. But the way we're gonna deal with that lack of tenderness is we're gonna cut this into really tiny pieces. We're almost gonna chop this up. So let's get these fat sections out of here first. And this is not good fat, this is just tough fat right here, so that's okay to get rid of. So what I wanna do is I just wanna break this down first into strips. Top round is also a cut that I use to make beef jerky frequently. You see, got a nice, rich red color inside there. Now, all this is not gonna go on one pizza, just so you know. Now, what I wanna do is I wanna take maybe 2 pieces of this at a time, and I'm just gonna start chopping it up into smaller pieces. And we're gonna go even smaller than this. We want these pieces to be small so that they're not chewy and so that they cook adequately. The pizza will probably take 10 to 15 minutes to get done. Every oven is different. It might take more, might take less. You can see we're really chopping this here. Comes out almost like ground meat, but still has structure. All right, I'm gonna finish chopping up the rest of this, and then we will move on to building our pizza. I'm gonna get some flour on my counter here. Get a good amount. Get our dough out here. Flour that up. I just wanna start working it into a circle, or at least as close to a circle as I can get it. Let its own weight help stretch it. Generally, you're gonna get somewhere around a 10-inch pizza out of this size dough ball. At least that's my experience. Get some flour on our pizza peel. I'm gonna do the final stretch on here because we're gonna build the pizza and top it on here. See, it moves nicely, so we'll be able to get it off of there and onto the stone in the oven easily. Because this is a barbecue pizza, we're gonna use barbecue sauce instead of tomato sauce. Just get a little bit on here and we'll spread it around. I don't like to overload my pizzas with sauce when I make them. I'm also, as you can probably tell, not terribly worried about a round shape. Next, I want some shredded fresh mozzarella on here. Again, I don't like to overload on the cheese. Now this next ingredient, totally optional, but I like to do it, and I actually like to do it at this stage. Some people top the pizza with it afterwards. No, not basil. I'm using some arugula that I tossed with a little bit of balsamic vinegar and a little bit of olive oil. Just gonna spread some of this around on here. And if you wanna do it the other way, top your pizza after it's cooked with this, that's totally fine. I like to let it get cooked down a little bit. Now for our beef pieces. Our barbecue beef, little chunks that we chopped up. It's looking good. And really, you can put as much on here as you want, or as little. You get a good amount on here. It is a barbecue beef pizza after all. And you can use really any cut of beef you want. I just happen to have that top round, that London broil, and thought it would work kind of nicely on this. I just want to shred a little bit of fresh Parmesan on here. Not a lot, just a little bit. All right, this is going in the oven, and from my experience with my oven, it's probably going to take around 15 minutes. Every oven's different. You got to cook it to your liking and until that beef is done. Well, here is our barbecue beef pizza. It took 18 minutes this time. Usually my pizzas take around 15, maybe 16. This took a couple minutes extra. Every cook is different. Slide it off onto my cutting board here. It's still hot. So let's go ahead and cut in and have a taste. That is steamy. I am ready to potentially burn the roof of my mouth with lava hot cheese, so I'm going in. You know, it's hard to beat a really good traditional Italian pizza, just a straight up margherita pizza. But when you go with something a little different, like say a barbecue chicken pizza or a barbecue beef pizza, there's a great flavor with that. Great flavor from that dough and from the ingredients that top it. Making pizza is so fun. That's why I love doing it. You can customize it to any way you want, make the flavors your own, and just have a great time.